Okay, so you send over this press release about changes to the NSE indices in India, and wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of changes coming March 28th, 2025.
Yeah, and I think, this is a really interesting deep dive because these indices are kind of like,
They're like the who's who.
yeah, like the VIP list.
Yeah, of the Indian stock market.
But the Indian stock market. And so, like,
if you're in, you're in. If you're out, you're out.
exactly. And I think for us, it's interesting to see who is in, who is out.
Yeah.
Because it tells us a lot about, where investors are putting their money, their time, their attention.
It's like getting a glimpse into the future of the Indian economy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we wanted to focus mostly today on the Nifty 50.
The Nifty 50.
Which is kind of like
India's Dow Jones.
India's Dow Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at that, and we're going to try to unpack like why these changes matter to you, the listener.
Absolutely.
So first up, some major shakeups, and I'm curious to get your take on this. So Bharat Petroleum and Britannia Industries are getting kicked off the Nifty 50.
Interesting.
So we're talking fuel and biscuits here.
Wow. So like
I guess they're not as
hot as they used to be.
Yeah, not the hot commodities that used to be.
Yeah.
What do you think that means?
Well, I think it's definitely a sign of the times. Things are changing. The market is shifting its focus. And these companies might not be, the forefront of those new priorities.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So who's taking their spots?
Yeah. Who is coming in?
Drum roll, please. Zomato, the food delivery giant, and Geo Financial Services, the finance arm of Reliance Industries.
Wow.
So we're seeing tech and digital finance.
Really stepping into the limelight.
Yeah, stepping right into the limelight.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right?
It's a big statement.
So
yeah.
There's a very specific reason why these companies were chosen, and I think it'd be good to explain it for our listeners.
Absolutely.
It all comes down to something called free float market capitalization.
Oh, yeah, that can sound a little intimidating.
Yeah, it sounds very complicated.
But it's not really.
But it's really not, and I think...
You want to give it a try?
Yeah, I can try to explain it.
Okay.
So basically, it's about how much of a company's stock is actually available for trading on the open market. So imagine a company has 1 million shares, right?
Yep.
But a bunch of them are held by company insiders or the government.
Right. Those are usually not traded.
Exactly. So they don't really impact the stock price. What matters is the free float, the shares that you and I can actually buy and sell.
Exactly.
A higher free float means more liquidity.
Which makes the stuff.
Which makes it more attractive to investors.
More attractive.
Especially big investors.
Institutional investors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important for getting onto these high-profile indices like the Nifty 50.
It's like the Nifty 50 is this VIP club, and the free float market cap is your ticket to get in.
I love that analogy. That's a really good one.
Thanks.
And these changes in the Nifty 50, of course, create like these ripple effects throughout other indices.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the Nifty Next 50 and Midcap 150.
The whole market kind of
it's like
reshuffle.
Musical chairs.
A little bit.
With companies moving up or down based on, their size and their performance.
And it really gives us insight into, which sectors are kind of gaining or losing momentum.
Totally. So let's look at some of those sector-specific indices and see what stories they tell us.
Love it. Let's do it.
Okay, in the auto sector, we have Tube Investments of India replacing Apollo Tires.
Okay.
What is going on there?
Well, Tube Investments, they're really big into bicycle manufacturing, and they're even starting to get into the electric vehicle components market.
Oh, wow.
So this could indicate, a broader shift
Interesting.
from traditional car and tire companies towards
more sustainable transportation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really cool observation.
Yeah.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
We're seeing maybe like a glimpse into the future of mobility in India.
Possibly. I think it makes sense given that global trend towards electrification and being more eco-friendly with transportation.
For sure. Okay, so next up, consumer durables.
Right.
Rajesh Exports, known for its gold jewelry, is out.
Okay.
And PG Electroplast, a consumer electronics maker, is in. What do you make of that?
Well, this shift could mean that consumer priorities are changing. Maybe there's a move away from those luxury items like jewelry and more towards essential electronics.
So it's like I need a new smartphone?
More than a gold necklace.
Yeah, exactly. That's really interesting.
Or it could reflect that electronics are just becoming more affordable and accessible in India.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, let's move on to financial services.
Okay.
We're seeing Geo Financial Services making a big entrance, replacing Multi-Commodity Exchange of India. So is this a sign that traditional finance is kind of losing its grip and these new tech-driven players are taking over.
I mean, it's certainly a possibility, right? Geo Financial Services with the backing of Reliance Industries. They have a lot of power and potential to really disrupt the established financial landscape.
Yeah, and they have those innovative digital solutions.
Absolutely. And this really reflects the growing preference for digital financial services, especially among younger generations.
Totally. Okay, speaking of changing preferences, let's look at FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods.
Okay.
We're saying goodbye to Balrampur Chini Mills, a sugar producer, and Procter & Gamble Hygiene.
And saying hello to
Imami, known for personal care products, and Patanjali, focusing on food and herbal products.
Interesting.
What do you think about this swap?
I think it's a few things.
Yeah?
Brand loyalty is definitely changing. There's a growing interest in those Ayurvedic and natural products.
Especially with Patanjali.
Especially with Patanjali.
Yeah.
I think
So maybe we're seeing a shift toward like a more health-conscious consumer.
Yeah, I think that's a trend.
Yeah.
Definitely a trend to watch closely.
Okay. Healthcare,
All right.
Dr. Lalpath Labs and Metropolis Healthcare, both big in diagnostics,
Yeah.
are out. And Fortis Healthcare and Mankind Pharma, focusing on treatment and pharmaceuticals, are in there. This seems like more than just like a company shuffle. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there could be a shift in focus within the healthcare sector. While diagnostics are really important, maybe the market is saying we need to prioritize companies involved in treatment and pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, like they're actually doing
Yeah.
something.
Addressing those health issues.
Yeah, instead of just identifying them.
Right.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah, this index change definitely seems to support that.
Finally, let's look at IT.
Okay.
L&T Technology Services is being replaced by Oracle Financial Services Software.
Wow.
What do you think? Is this a sign that people are kind of putting their faith back in these established giants?
I think it's fascinating. The inclusion of Oracle, which is, a huge player in software and technology, could suggest that investors are looking for that stability and that proven track record.
Right. They know what they're going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe in the fast-paced world of tech, experience and reliability are more valuable now than ever.
That's a great point. The IT sector is constantly changing, and this is just one small insight into how investors are feeling right now.
Totally. It's amazing how much we can learn about the Indian economy by looking at these index changes.
Yeah, just from these little shifts.
And we're just getting started.
I know, buckle up.
Yeah.
There's more to come.
We'll be back.
Absolutely. More to dig into. Yeah, it really is like we're financial detectives and we're trying to piece together all the clues.
I love that.
Yeah.
So beyond these individual companies, we also have what are called thematic indices.
Yeah.
And these indices track like specific trends.
Sectors.
Yeah, sectors. And for example, the Nifty India Digital Index just added Swiggy
Oh, wow.
to its lineup.
That's huge.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, that's like a neon sign, flashing at the digital economy in India is just booming. Swiggy's success is a great example of how people are embracing online services and they're more comfortable with digital transactions.
It's true. I mean, think about it. A few years ago, food delivery apps were
A novelty.
Yeah.
And now they're just part of life.
totally part of everyday life for so many people.
It's amazing how quickly consumer behavior has shifted, in the digital space, and it's just going to keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Another interesting one, the Nifty India Manufacturing Index added companies like Hyundai Motor India and Keynes Technology India.
Interesting.
So what's the story there?
Well, those additions are really pointing to two key areas. I think electric vehicles and electronics manufacturing.
Okay.
Hyundai's focus on EVs aligns with that global shift towards more sustainable transportation.
Right.
And Keynes Technology, with their expertise in electronics, that's crucial for making all that happen.
Yeah, so it's not just that we're seeing, the consumer demand changing, but we're also seeing the manufacturing side adapting to that.
Absolutely.
It's really interesting.
It's a chain reaction.
It is.
One thing leads to another.
Okay, and speaking of interesting companies, we can't forget about the Nifty Microcap 250 Index.
Oh, yeah. The land of hidden gems?
Yeah, this is where all the small companies with big potential live. And a bunch of new names entered this index. So maybe this is a good place for our listeners to start doing some research.
Absolutely. This is where it gets exciting for investors who maybe are okay with a bit more risk. Microcap companies, they're not always on everyone's radar, but they could offer huge growth opportunities.
So it's kind of like a treasure hunt.
Exactly.
Maybe you'll find the next big thing
You never know.
before everyone else does.
That's the thrill of it.
And I think even for those of us who aren't like, stock market experts, this has given us a really good look at what's happening in the Indian economy.
Oh, for sure. By understanding these changes, we can get a sense of, which sectors are hot, which technologies are taking off, and how consumer preferences are evolving.
So what stands out to you the most from all this?
Well, the rise of digital finance is super interesting to me, and obviously the shift towards electric vehicles. I mean, these are big transformations happening not just in India, but globally.
I agree with you there. And I think it's important to remember that this is just a starting point.
Oh, yeah.
We're just giving you a taste.
A little glimpse.
Yeah, a little glimpse. We encourage you to dig deeper into the companies and sectors that really caught your attention.
Absolutely. Curiosity is key. Research those companies, figure out how they work and what their potential is. You might find something amazing that fits perfectly with what you're looking for.
But of course, do your own research.
Always.
And talk to a financial advisor.
That's crucial.
Before making any investment decisions.
Yeah, investing always has risks, so make sure you understand what you're doing and that it's right for you.
Wise words. The markets are always changing.
Always moving.
So stay curious, stay informed.
And happy investing.
Yes. Wow, it's amazing to think about how much we've learned just by looking at these NSE index changes. It's like we've taken a crash course on the whole Indian economy.
Yeah, from tech to healthcare to those consumer goods.
Exactly. And we focus a lot on the Nifty 50, but there are so many other indices out there.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
That are worth exploring.
Each one gives you a different perspective on the market.
Totally. So, for example, the Nifty Midcap Select Index tracks those mid-sized companies. And it had some interesting additions.
Like Max Healthcare Institute.
Yeah.
And Oracle Financial Services software.
What do you think about those?
Well, those were actually compulsory additions, They were driven by market capitalization.
Oh, so they just got too big.
Basically, they graduated to this more prominent category because they were just too big for those smaller indices.
So they leveled up.
Yeah, exactly.
In the stock market game.
It's like a promotion.
Yeah. And speaking of mid-caps, the Nifty Midcap 50 saw some new entries, too.
Oh, yeah, like BSE Limited.
That's the Bombay Stock Exchange.
The Bombay Stock Exchange itself, and 197 Communications, which is better known as Paytm.
Paytm, yeah.
Yeah, along with NHPC, which is a major player in hydropower.
Interesting.
So it seems like there's renewed interest in those financial and energy companies.
Within the mid-cap space.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how these indices reflect not just the size of companies, but also how investors are feeling about certain industries.
Yeah, sentiment is a big factor.
Okay, so the Nifty Small Cap 50 also had some intriguing additions, including Dr. Lal Path Labs, which we saw actually drop out of that Nifty 50 healthcare index.
Right.
And Gaines Technology India, the electronics manufacturer.
So those companies represent the healthcare and tech sectors, highlighting that there are opportunities across the market. You don't have to just focus on those big players.
It's like panning for gold.
Yeah, you never know where you'll strike it rich.
You never know. So I think this has given us a really amazing snapshot of what's happening in the Indian market.
Oh, absolutely. It shows us those market dynamics and investor sentiment.
And we've given everyone the tools to start putting the pieces together.
Yeah, the logic behind it changes the reasons why companies get in or out and which sectors and companies are really grabbing attention.
But remember, everyone, this is just the beginning of your journey.
Oh, yeah.
The real work starts now.
Do your own research. Investigate the companies that excite you and think about how these big market trends fit with your own goals and risk tolerance.
And talk to a financial advisor.
Absolutely. They can guide you through the market and help you make smart decisions.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want you to stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged with the world of finance.
The Indian market is full of possibilities.
And with a little knowledge and some exploration, you can unlock its potential. Happy investing, everyone.